Moonshiners Season 14 Final. Mark and Digger successfully avoid being arrested. The final of Moonshiners Season 14 arrived with all the excitement and anticipation that fans of the hit Discovery Channel show have come to expect. The stakes were higher than ever for Mark and Digger, the fan-favorite duo, known for their daring distilling skills and their knack for staying one step ahead of the law. As the moonshining world becomes more scrutinized and dangerous with each passing year, Mark and Digger's adventure in the final was a masterclass in outwitting the authorities and navigating the murky world of illegal spirits. A season of tension. Season 14 of Moonshiners has been a roller coaster of suspense, triumphs, and near misses. For Mark and Digger, every batch of shine brewed and every mile traveled had been laced with tension, knowing that their craft was not just illegal, but dangerous. Yet, despite the odds, they had managed to stay one step ahead of the law for years. In previous seasons, the duo had dealt with everything from undercover agents trying to infiltrate their operation to rival moonshiners looking to take them down. But Season 14 raised the stakes in an unexpected way. The threat of law enforcement seemed more immediate, and the consequences of getting caught were dire. Throughout the season, Mark and Digger had made it clear that they weren't just trying to stay out of jail, they were also trying to keep their business alive. They had honed their craft over the years, producing some of the best moonshine in the region. But the heat was on. Authorities were becoming increasingly vigilant in their crackdown on illegal distilling, and Mark and Digger knew that it was only a matter of time before they would be forced to confront the full wrath of the law. The build-up to the finalized season final was always going to be explosive, but the build-up was even more intense than anyone had anticipated. Over the past few episodes, Mark and Digger had been laying low, trying to perfect their recipe while avoiding any attention. They had also been carefully selecting locations to brew their shine, making sure to stay off the radar of any local law enforcement. However, as the finale approached, the tension between them and the law became palpable. Authorities had been getting closer, and rumors had begun circulating that there were informants in the area. Mark and Digger knew that it was only a matter of time before their operation would be discovered, and their entire livelihood would be at risk. Despite the constant threat, Mark and Digger's bond remained strong. Their partnership was more than just about making moonshine. It was about mutual respect and shared experiences. Over the years, they had become an inseparable duo, and their friendship had seen them through some of the toughest moments of their moonshining careers. The final plan. A desperate gamble as the final began, Mark and Digger were faced with a choice that could determine the future of their moonshining business. Law enforcement was closing in on their operation, and the risk of being arrested was higher than ever. But Mark and Digger weren't about to go down without a fight. After much deliberation, the duo devised a bold plan. They would have to make one final batch of moonshine and then disappear, taking every precaution to avoid detection. They knew that their usual methods of evasion might not work this time. Law enforcement had gotten smarter, and the pressure on them was intense. This batch, however, would have to be their best and their last. The location they chose was a remote area deep in the woods, far away from any prying eyes. This time, they would leave nothing to chance. Mark and Digger took extra measures to ensure that they didn't leave any trace of their operation behind. From hiding the equipment in hidden caves to creating false trails that would confuse any potential trackers, they went all out to ensure their safety. But as they began to distill the final batch, the ever-present threat of the authorities loomed large. The sound of their still crackling in the distance was almost deafening, and every rustling leaf or snap of a twig sent their hearts racing. Even though they had planned every detail meticulously, they knew that the law could arrive at any moment. The close callers Mark and Digger were finalizing their operation, a sudden sound cut through the silence of the woods. A car engine. They froze in place, instinctively ducking behind the equipment. Their minds raced as they realized that the authorities could be nearby. The engine grew louder, and soon the sound of tires crunching on gravel confirmed their worst fear. The cops were getting closer. For a moment, it seemed as though everything was about to come crashing down. Mark and Digger exchanged glances, their faces a mixture of determination and anxiety. They knew that their time was running out, and the authorities could be just around the corner. Mark, ever the strategist, quickly whispered, "We've got to move fast." Digger nodded, already thinking ahead. "We're not getting caught this time." The two men sprang into action, with a sense of urgency that had never been more pronounced. They immediately began dismantling the equipment and hiding it in the dense foliage. It was a race against time. Their hearts pounded in their chests as the sound of the car grew louder. The authorities were dangerously close, and Mark and Digger knew that if they were spotted, everything would be over. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Mark and Digger executed their escape plan with military precision. They had anticipated every possible scenario, and now was the moment of truth. The two men split up, each taking a different route through the woods to confuse any potential pursuers. Mark took a narrow path that led to a creek, while Digger headed in the opposite direction toward a series of boulders that could provide cover. As they sprinted through the underbrush, they could hear the sound of footsteps approaching. The authorities were on their trail, but Mark and Digger had already put their plan into motion. The Moonshiners knew that they couldn't afford to be caught. If they were, they could face serious charges, and their business would be destroyed. The escape. Victory at last. In a tense and heart-pounding sequence, Mark and Digger successfully evaded the authorities. Their plan had worked, and the law enforcement officers had been left baffled, unable to find any trace of the Moonshiners or their operation. After hours of evading capture, Mark and Digger finally made their way to a hidden cabin deep in the woods, where they could lay low until the heat died down. As the dust settled, the sense of relief was palpable. They had done it. They had avoided being arrested and successfully protected their craft. Mark and Digger stood on the porch of the cabin, looking out at the tranquil woods, their hearts still racing from the escape. "This is it," Mark said, a grin spreading across his face. "We pulled it off." Digger let out a deep sigh, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I can't believe it. We actually did it." The two men shared a moment of quiet victory, knowing that they had come through one of the most intense challenges of their moonshining careers. They had avoided the law once again, proving that with a little ingenuity, determination, and a lot of luck, even the most dangerous situations could be overcome. A future uncertain, but bright as the credits rolled on the Moonshiners Season 14 finale. Viewers were left with a sense of awe and admiration for Mark and Digger's ability to navigate the dangerous world of moonshining. Their successful escape from the authorities wasn't just about avoiding jail. It was about preserving their legacy and ensuring that their craft would live on. Although their future remained uncertain, one thing was clear. Mark and Digger were not about to give up their passion for making moonshine. They had weathered countless storms together, and they had proven time and time again that they were a force to be reckoned with. As the finale came to an end, fans were left wondering what the future would hold for their favorite Moonshiners. Would they continue their craft in secret, or would they finally decide to go legitimate? Only time would tell, but one thing was for sure. Mark and Digger had shown the world that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they were a team that could not be easily defeated. The Season 14 finale of Moonshiners was a fitting conclusion to a season filled with twists and turns. It showcased the heart, resilience, and resourcefulness of Mark and Digger, and left fans eagerly awaiting the next chapter in their moonshining saga. Moonshiners Season 14 Final. Mark and Digger successfully avoid being arrested as the sun set on the final episode of Moonshiners Season 14. Viewers were on the edge of their seats, eagerly anticipating the fate of two of the show's most iconic characters, Mark and Digger. For 14 seasons, the duo has become synonymous with innovation, risk, and the wild, untamed spirit of moonshining in the Appalachian Mountains. But as the stakes have risen, so too have the dangers, especially in the final episode of the season, where Mark and Digger find themselves faced with an incredibly high-stakes situation, avoiding arrest after a risky, yet ingenious, moonshine run. The build-up to the final throughout the season, Mark and Digger have faced their fair share of challenges. The show, which has followed moonshiners as they craft illegal spirits in secret, has never been short on suspense. From narrow escapes from law enforcement to volatile moonshine runs in the most remote parts of the Appalachian Mountains, the show's central conflict has always been the danger of getting caught. In Season 14, however, Mark and Digger found themselves on the precipice of their most dangerous run yet.